So I want to talk to you about what comes next, how true collaboration can overcome all adversity. One of my favourite quotes is by anthropologist Margaret Mead, and she says, "Never doubt that a small group of committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has." And that gives me hope. Because I don't know about you, but I think our world has gone a little bit wonky. It's not quite right, is it? I mean, just think about it. Some information that you might be aware of. According to Oxfam's wealth inequality statistics, 1% of our population has accumulated since 2020 over $42 trillion worth of wealth, which is more than double the 99% of the rest of the population. It doesn't feel quite right, does it? Or how about we know how to generate free energy, and yet we're still mining the Earth's natural resources? It's crazy. Or, what really gets me, we are suffering and dying from obesity, whilst people are still starving on our planet. It doesn't feel right, does it? It doesn't feel fair. We are creating human-inflicted dilemmas, and we are suffering adversity inflicted by humanity. It's crazy. But what in a civilized world can we do? Now, don't get me wrong, it's not all bad. We've made great changes since my age. When I was a kid, I was small. In my world, we didn't have central heating. It was a bit chilly. We had an outside toilet. Oh, that was tough. We had the proverbial tin bath in front of the fire, and we couldn't even turn on the hot water tap because we didn't have hot water. We had to boil it on the hob. But you know what? My parents, having lived through the Blitz, thought they were lucky. They were blessed. They had a roof over their head and they had food in their bellies. Life was good. It was fine. And they even had a luxury of a fridge. Oh, yes. And a 2-channel television. And if we wanted to make a phone call, we only had to go for a 5-minute walk up the road. It really wasn't that far. And yet today, within arm's reach, I guarantee all of you have got one of these very close to you. We can connect with hundreds, if not thousands of people around the world. And yet we all take it for granted. Doesn't seem fair, does it? Something else that's not fair is that all of us have been blessed with an education. And yet a short plane ride away, women are being banned from going to school. It just doesn't feel right, does it? But what can I do? I'm just one person. It's just, problems are too big. I can't, how can I make a difference? I do my bit, I recycle, that's a start. But maybe I'll just protect myself. I'll look after number one. I'll push that to one side. And I'm all right, Jack, that's fine. But that doesn't feel right either, does it? It isn't that long ago when the pandemic happened and we were sent to our rooms to think about what we'd done. We were isolated. And we weren't missing the posh cars or the fancy holidays. What we were really missing were our friends and our families and our community. Humanity came together when they realised what was really meaningful to them. We realised we don't need the stuff anymore. It's about people. It's about coming together and making those connections. Since throughout history, we've had change. And at the moment, we're on the precipice of a revolution, a technological revolution. Throughout history, we've had the agricultural revolution, and that was a bit of an upheaval, but we got used to that. In a few generations, it bedded in, and it was quite useful. And then, of course, the industrial revolution made a bit more of an impact, and things changed a bit faster, but still within a generation or two. But we got used to that, and that was okay. But now we're in the slap bang in the middle of a technological revolution with artificial intelligence, AI. Look how much things have changed in the last few years alone. Change is now constant. So we look to technology to help us with these massive problems that we have created. Is AI coming to rescue us, or is it going to destroy us? And do we stand by while we watch as the earth implodes? So what do we do? It's all too big, it's all too much. What can we possibly do? What comes next? Well, Buckminster Fuller, futurist, tells us that if you want to change something, if you want to fight the existing reality, you have to change the model. Sorry, you cannot change the model. You have to build a new model that makes the old model obsolete. Great. Let's build a new model then, shall we? But where would we start? Where do we begin? Well, Bucky also tells us about ephemeralization. That's the ability to do more and more with less and less. And technology is certainly helping us in that sphere. How much more can you do today than you could have done 10 years ago? I remember the days of writing a memo. Now we send an email. So much better. So Bucky also talks about love being the ultimate ephemeralization. You do more and more with less and less. Love, you cannot see it, you cannot touch it, but you know it's there. You feel it. It's our superpower. Why would we not use that as our new model? Hang on, Jill, this is all getting a bit too big, a bit too much. We can't go around making new models. This is just going to be ridiculous. We can't do it. Let me bring you back to reality. Okay. Since 2007, I've been a business coach. And my speciality, my niche, was partnerships. Still is, to be honest. And I would work with partnerships that are usually beating each other up about something. And when you're only two, you can't always see the wood for the trees. So I would come in and spread my magic. But actually the magic is the number 3. That magic is when you come together and you throw a different light on a situation. You give different context and you can see things from a different perspective. And then things start to happen. I always maintain in a collaboration, 3 is a great beginning. And from there, you can work your magic and take it further and see how far it will go. So we are told that the backbone of our economy is the SME world, the small, medium enterprises, the people that I was working with. They employ more people, they generate the most income, they have the most power, and yet they have so little control. Hang on a minute, what if we started working with these SMEs to build this new model? What would that look like? It got me thinking. I started doing some research, and I've looked at different people like Simon Anholt, another great TED speaker, and he talked about the Good Country Index. The Good Country Index is where he looked at currently countries measure themselves on their GDP, how much money makes their success. What about if they were measured on how good they were to their citizens? How good they were to the businesses within that country, and how good they were to the visitors that came to do business with those businesses. That's a different measure entirely. Simon was good enough to come and talk to our community a couple of times as well. I carried on my research. I looked back at society over the years. I looked at society globally, and I looked at society and how we operate individually within those societies. And one thing that struck me was Linda Grattan, who's a professor at London School of Business. She wrote a book over a decade ago called The Shift. And in that, she predicted a pandemic. Though not the one we've just had, a different sort of pandemic. Because she saw what was happening with technology, she predicted that we're going to be working from home and we're going to be isolated. And there's going to be a pandemic of loneliness. And that's happening as well. So I started talking to people to say, what would it look like if we utilise collaboration? Not from the way we use it at the moment, a transactional, what's in it for you, you get 20%, I'll get 30%, and how much money are we going to make? but more from the point of view of how can we help more people? And we all came to the conclusion that a true collaboration is one where you can pay it forward for someone else. Maybe you've learnt something in your collaboration and you pay it forward into a new market, or you pay it forward into a charity or a community, or maybe teach it to someone else so they can do the same as you, and it goes further, like ripples on the pond. And bit by bit, we started meeting. And people were saying, well, how do I do this collaboration thing? So we would get into meetings on a regular basis, and we decided the things that we needed. And one of the things that we pinched from another great TED speaker, Sam Conniff-Allende, who wrote Be More Pirate. His business partner came to speak to us as well, and we got fascinated by how pirates were ahead of their time. And they had the pirate code, and they created their own societies, and there was no hierarchy. The captain wasn't in charge. It was a group decision before any voyage. I like that idea. They were kind of creating their own rules. And the pirate code were those rules for every voyage that they went on. So we borrowed that, and we now call that the rules of the game. So every collaboration that happens, we sit down and we have those conversations. Maybe a difficult conversation like we just heard about, but we have those conversations anyway. And we ask things like, so what do you want to achieve out of this? What's your purpose? What's your mission in life? What legacy do you want to leave? What triggers you when you get stressed? What are your limiting beliefs? And we unpack all of those things before the collaboration starts in order to, if there's any stress in the future, we can deal with it much more easily because we've had those conversations in the beginning. I carried on the research and discovered as well, about probably a decade ago now, a thing called spiral dynamics, developed by Claire Graves and Don Beck back in the 60s, before the internet was invented. And they talk about a spiral, as the name suggests, and they looked, same as I was doing, across history, across the globe, and across individuals. And they identified that we sit in a part of the spiral, whether it's in survival mode, whether it's in a religious space or a hierarchical space, an environmental space. And they predicted that we were going to emerge into what they call the teal level. And in the teal level, they suggested that we were going to have self-organizing organizations. There would be no hierarchy. There would be no one in charge. It would be for the benefit of the community, and people would come together and help each other in their genius, in their talents. So we kind of borrowed that as well. And I looked at it around the world and I thought, do you know what? We are having that now. We are emerging into the teal level now because of technology. They didn't realize how it was going to work, but we are seeing it happening. TED is a self-organizing organization. It's going off on its own. So's the Me Too movement. So's Black Lives Matter and Extinction Rebellion. I don't know about you, but I couldn't name who's in charge of all of those people like that. Not quite the same as celebrities on Love Island, which I'm sure some of you would know. The important people we don't know because it's been self-organized and it's organic. It's happened. But with technology, the growth of those movements have been exponential. So we ended up coming together, trying out stuff. Does this work? Does that work? Let's try this collaboration. Let's try that collaboration. And we got stories that came back of wonderful things that had happened. Yes, okay, they made some money. There were contracts here and there were contracts there, but I wasn't interested in money. I didn't really care about that. What I was amazed by is when you come together with your foundation of love, your meaning of connection, and your feeling of abundance, which is where you want to be, then wonderful things happen. We had stepped out of that rat race of the paradigm that we currently all live in of fear, scarcity, and competition. Fear that we haven't got enough. We need a 7-figure salary, apparently. We're always running to get the next promotion, the next thing, so we can get more stuff. The scarcity, there's not enough to go around. I have to be at the head of the queue. I must get what I deserve. And the competition, I can't talk to that person. That's another business coach. They might steal my clients. They might take my IP. How would that work? So with that feeling, and we've transformed in our space with the SME businesses and the entrepreneurs, a paradigm of love, it's our superpower, connection, it's how we get to know each other really deeply. And abundance, there is enough to go around. We don't have to be fearful. Amazing things started to happen. So we heard stories of one guy who hadn't spoken to his family for 7 years. That was all right. He said, that's fine. Actually, by the support of our community and people that challenged him and nudged him, supported him, coached him, he got in contact. And his children found out that they had a granddad. And his father found out that he had grandchildren he'd never heard of. A year later, his dad was dead. His children would have never known their grandfather had he not been in that space of love, connection, and abundance. Another guy had been a functioning alcoholic all of his adult life. And because of that kind of support, he's now been sober for the last 4 years. Another guy couldn't face telling his friends and family that he wanted to transition into a woman. He came to us first and felt strong enough and confident enough to try it out with us before he could then go and tell his nearest and dearest. Finally, at one meeting, I said, how's the year been for you guys? How's it been? What have you got from Collaboration Global? And one person said, well, if it wasn't for this community, I wouldn't be here now. And a tiny voice at the other side of the room said, me too. They no longer had a need to consider suicide because of the space that they were inhabiting. Those are the sorts of things that I believe could be a blueprint for all businesses, the backbone of our community. And also could be a blueprint for our countries as well. And all we have to do is try it out, collaborate, pay it forward, and just watch it happen, bit by bit. So how do you do it? Well, the proverbial 3 steps. Step 1, be connected to who you are. Know who you are. Know what your genius is. Know what your purpose is so that we can really understand ourselves. Know who your vision is, where you want to take things, what your triggers are, what your limiting beliefs are. And be empowered. Stand tall. Just know who you are being. Take that into your business. Step 2. Tell your staff and your suppliers and your clients and empower them as well. Help them to be empowered too so they can go back to their families and their friends and share love, connection, and abundance. Step 3, go collaborate, people. That's what we need to do. And don't forget you're collaborating to finish a collaboration that was a success and look back and go, wow, I learned this, I did that, we could replicate this and pass it on to someone else. Pass it forward so they can do it as well for a charity, for another community, for another business. Let's help each other. In the paradigm of love, connection, and abundance, we talk about not what's in it for me, how do I make this work for me? It's got to be, how can I help? What can I do? Let's not worry about the money as a focus. Let's consider and enhance how humanity needs to be in love with each other. Our values at Collaboration Global are love, human being first, and collaboration, the being of collaboration. And we say human being first. I don't care what you do for a living. I don't care how much money you have. I don't care if you are black or white or sky blue pink. I don't care if you are old or young, male or female, can't decide. I don't care what's going on in your life. You are a human being first, and I love you. And because I love you, I trust you. And because I trust you, I respect you. We need to bring each other together and relish and value the differences that we have. It's our gold to make this world a better place. So what's next? It's us. Together, we can make a difference. And as Mother Teresa tells us, together we can do something wonderful. Going back to Margaret Mead, never doubt that a small group of committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. Thank you.